Hello everyone, this is Vladimir from Foxy Voxel. Today I wanted to talk about the various updates that we have had in the past couple of months. So we haven't talked about a lot of the things that we added, so I wanted to make like this dev playthrough. So it's not going to be a long format, just something a bit shorter, but maybe longer than a trailer. So I just want to show off some things that we have been doing and what we added to the game if you missed some of our blogs and would like to see them instead of reading about them. So let's begin. So the last update that we did, nice full preview, was update 11. So I'm going to start talking about update 12. So update 12 was the prisoners one. So I wanted to go through some of those things with you guys. Prisoners are something that we have now in the game. So how do you get prisoners? You get prisoners by defeating enemies, and there are certain parameters that influence it. So basically, like if you have 2-3 settlers defending your village and there's like 5 enemies that are trying to run away, they're not gonna surrender because they're 5-3, but they're defeated and they want to go. They just want to run away. But if there's a smaller amount of enemies that are left and they're hurt, there's a large chance some of them will surrender. And when they surrender, they can be taken to a jail cell. A prison cell, sorry. So a prison cell is a room type that we added that needs a cell marker and needs prisoner's stash. So prisoner's stash is basically a shelf that can have booze and that can have meals or food or whatever you want to put there. So you can feed them rotten stuff if you want. I don't know. I mean, that might not be a good idea, but you can. So the thing about the prison stash is that settlers will not eat from it nor drink from it. So that's just something that the prisoners can do. And the prison cell marker right now is empty, but the idea is that in it you will be able to manage which prisoner will go to what prison cell. So that's something that's upcoming. So I'm going to talk about stuff like that here. So I'm going to talk about like what we want to add at some point, what we're not able to add at some point, and just like the basic idea around designing stuff. Okay, so those two things are needed for a prison cell. Prisoners can't leave the prison cell ever, only if they're taken to another prison cell or they're turned into captive laborers. So that's something else we added to the game. Now you can place shackles on them. Shackling prisoners does not turn them into captive laborers, but if they're shackled, they can be marked as a captive laborer here. When I try to click and turn them into captive laborers, I can't, because only prisoners wearing shackles can do that. So I'm playing a dev build. I'm just gonna add shackles. Gonna add shackles. Shackles are items, so they're made in the blacksmith station. Let's add fine shackles. Now when we place shackles on this guy, somebody's gonna come up and place shackles on them. So let's see who has I don't know how to pronounce this, so it's jailer, I guess. The same as like English pronunciation, even though it's more of a French thing. So yeah, the thing about this is our narrative designer recommended that we use this word, jailer, instead of just jailer in English, because in medieval England they would use this word more often that was the way that they would write it and say it, I guess. So they took it from the French. Like a lot of words back then. So let's see if anybody's gonna shackle him. Prioritize shackle, let's see. So captive laborers then can work around the settlement. They basically have a list of jobs, just like your settlers have. Let's just leave this guy outside. Okay, now he's shackled. He's not very happy because he's shackled. If we look at his mood, he has chained up, so that's not good. And also, so now we can go to the overview panel and turn him into a captive laborer. And as you can see, we have his small jobs panel here. So they can construct, they can grow, they can harvest, they can mine, they can cut plants. It's a good way of just adding to your workforce, to your settlement, if you want to. But the thing is, they won't work on their own. They need prison warden. So a prison warden is a new type of role that we added. Remember roles from last time? It's a new type of role that we added. So the prison warden will, during his green hours, the role hours, he will go and talk to the captive laborer and basically force him into work hour. So just like our settlers have work hours, he's going to force him into work hour. And after some time, it's going to cool down. So when it cools down, the prison warden will come and talk to captive laborer again and go from one to the other, just like keeping them in check to see if they're working and stuff like that. And like captive laborers can walk around the map, so they're not like regular prisoners, so they can just walk around, do whatever they want. If we take the shackles off, he's going to stop being captive labor and again become a regular prisoner. So for regular prisoners, we can release them. We can strip them if we want the clothes they have on them. Well, this guy doesn't have any clothes or anything, so that's cool. And we can recruit them. So setting them to recruit will make our prison warden come and talk to him from time to time, trying to recruit them. And we see here he's recruited 0%. So last recruiting attempt was failed. Yeah, that was because I was playing before that. And next attempt at 0 hours. So he's scheduled to be talked to by the prison warden. And yeah, there are like certain things that influence that. The happier he is, the easier it is to recruit. So making a nice prison cell with like nice beds and nice stuff there, giving them nice food, same as settlers, is gonna make their mood nice and high, and you're gonna more easily recruit them. Just like a note, we do have a soft lock on the amount of prisoners. I guess when you're like at 10 prisoners and, I don't know, 15, 20 settlers, the game's gonna give you less and less prisoners. So less enemies are going to surrender, less merchants that sell prisoners will appear, or they'll appear but they won't have prisoners to sell. So that's just our way of trying to cap it a bit so it doesn't go overboard so easily. There were some reports from players saying, oh, why doesn't this prisoner merchant want to sell me the prisoners he has? And when I looked at the save, the player had like 25 settlers, I don't know, 10, 15 prisoners. So yeah, that's the system's working. So, but I know it's not very elegant, maybe not very elegantly explained during gameplay, but it is something that we use often. We use it with animals also. We use it also with settlers. So we would like it if you guys had castles with 100 settlers, but our game is not optimized enough for that to happen, so we cap it a bit. So it's soft cap, so there's no like magic number where the game says no more settlers for you. It's more like settlers and prisoners will come less often, to the point where they're very, very, very rare. So that's about prisoners. I think they're a fun addition to the game. So you can, yeah, the cool thing is you can sell them back or gift them back to the faction they're from. That will make their friendliness towards that faction rise. So it's a good like bargaining chip. I mean, that's what prisoners were used for in the medieval ages, more often than like labor and just like punishment. So, you know, punishment would be like you get your hand chopped off or something like that. I don't know. But like this was more, okay, we have somebody as a prisoner, we're gonna use him and threat the other family, other castle, other like keep other factions in check. So with that, we did add the option of hanging them. So this was a touchy thing for me. I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea of the player doing this. Somehow it felt wrong, but we added it in the end because I guess players want to roleplay as a medieval village, and having this option is a nice roleplay thing. So, but the thing is, we did add it as like a gameplay feature, but it is kind of punishing. So doing that, you won't get a lot. So it's just like if you want to do it, if it's there for you, but it's not that much of a thing, you know. So that's something for certain players to enjoy if they want to do it. But there are interesting things that you can do. So you can hold an event for hanging. Your settlers will gather around, and the prisoner will walk up to the noose, and he'll just die. So what happens after hanging event? The faction that you hung that prisoner from is going to dislike this, of course. It's not going to like it. Some of your settlers might get a kick out of it. They might like it. So settlers with perks like Callous and Bloodthirsty, I think Callous won't react at all. Bloodthirsty will love it. They'll love it all the time. Other settlers, I think, will have like they won't have any sort of reaction to it. They're like, oh, cool, that happened, and they'll just continue with their lives. Okay, that's about hanging. And I think that's it about prisoners. So I think we should continue with next update that we did. The next update we did was the modding update that we started with. So we added modding to the game. So what does that mean? It basically means we just added the Steam workshop, and we just tested it a bunch to see how it works, what things are moddable, how does it work when you have several mods active and stuff like that. You guys were a huge help, tested it out. Shout out to everybody on the modding branch on Steam. You did great work in helping us out, finding all the various situations that make the game break. We did have another rollout of modding features that I'll talk about afterwards. So that was basically update 13 was modding. Update 14. So update 14 is a very big one for us. So it's the fire update. And so I wanted to show you guys what fire does in the game. So I guess you already saw it, been playing. So things can catch on fire now. So anything can catch on fire, I guess. Everything is flammable now. I think there's even an... No, there seems not to be any info about flammability here, but things like, you know, hay stacks, sticks, wooden stuff is flammable, pretty much. Things that are made of bricks, made of limestone, made of limestone bricks and stuff like that, that's not flammable, so that's cool. But the thing is, everything in the game can be damaged by fire, so even if you have like a fire next to this wall, it's going to damage the wall next to it if it's there for a long time. So that's something that we added, as not to have, you know, situations where everything is fireproof in the game. Fire works very well with our wetness system. So as you can see, like, it's raining, everything becomes wet. As you can see, like here in this part of the screen, you can see how wet it is. It says like wet 45% and stuff like that. So wetness takes down the flammability, so that's cool. So anything that's wet will make the flame not catch on fire, or not catch on, or even just like die quicker. So wetness beats fire, so that's cool. So like any fire that we would have here, if it's raining, it's gonna die pretty fast. That's a cool thing. And yeah, we did add the RimWorld rule set, because it's a very cool rule set, very cool gameplay feature, where if the fire rages on for a long time, the rain will start. It's gonna, you know, force the game to rain. So, but it needs to like destroy a huge portion of your settlement in order for the rain to start doing that. But we also added a bunch of ways for the player to fight fire. So let's add a fire. I'm going to use DevTools here to just make fire appear. So enable, and we say like, okay, fire, and then we say like, it's going to be here. So as you can see, it's nice and juicy. It appeared. It's there. I'm just going to turn off this debug. And if we look at the fire, it's pretty neat. I'm pretty satisfied with how it looks. Full disclosure, I did the shader for the fire and worked with the programmer that made the propagation of the fire and the spreading and whatnot. And it was a fun time. I liked that I was able to add this heat haze effect. If you can see, like, while the fire is doing, it has this hazy effect. It has some nice smoke effects, has some nice embers, and as you can see, people are quenching fires. So, when settlers want to quench fires, they need to find water. So as you can see, he has 8 waters in his inventory, and he's running towards the fire. So we have several ways of taking out flames. So the first one is, of course, with fire. It's easy. They just go, they find source of the fire, and then they go and take it out. It does get taken out before the animation of the settler finishes, but I think that's okay. And as you can see, they threw water there, and now it's all wet. So basically what they do, they don't really come and destroy the fire. They come and they spawn wetness there, and that's what kills the flame. So that's cool. So where do they get this water? So they can get the water from, let's say, this lake. They can come here, they can pick up some water, they'll run to the fire if the lake is close. This lake is not close, so that's why they're not going to get water from here. The other way is to come from a barrel. So we added these nice buildings, structures. So large barrel and small barrel. You can build them anywhere, and settlers that have hauling turned on will fill them up. So it's just like a nice storage of water, nothing else. Let's see how it says it has 200 buckets of water. Okay. They can be filled up by settlers going to the lake and back, and they can be filled up by using the well. So the well is an interesting one. We have had the players reporting that they don't know how to use it, and yeah, that's a bit on me, I guess, and on the team for not explaining this. So we are going to work on tutorializing this a bit better and showing off this a bit better, but I wanted to show you guys how it works. So basically, the well can be placed anywhere, but it won't draw water. So let's see, where is the well? Here it is. You can place it there. I have auto construct on, so that's why it just appeared here. So you can place it there, but it's ground, and it says well structure only operates if the well shaft can reach water on any level beneath it. So this is the first building of its kind where, as you can see, it takes up three nodes or 3 grid spaces, but the middle grid space can be a hole and should be a hole. So let's just test it out like this. We build it like very high. I don't know why we would do that, but we build it very high, build it like this, and we add the well. The well will work. So everything that's important is that the well shaft can reach water vertically. So it can be like, I don't know, 16 stories up high, and it can draw water from there. I've seen some players nicely doing like creative things, like building underground tunnels or just like making a canal through to their village and just adding a bunch of wells there. So that's a very cool thing to do. But here, this well is working because we added underground water. So hillside maps and valley maps will spawn with underground water. So these are just like caverns filled with water that are almost always spawned near the middle of the map. And I guess this is also confusing for somebody, like how do you draw water from that? So the interesting thing about well shaft, so it can be like a 1 voxel hole, and it can have ladder down there. So just like digging a voxel, then going down with a ladder, then going down with a ladder until you reach water. The way I do it is I would find water, go a layer up, mark it for digging, go a layer up, mark it for digging, and then until I reach the surface. And then after that I place ladders, and then after that I place a well. I know it's a bit more, it's time consuming, but it's fun. It's kind of realistic, just like digging for water and not just like, oh, the pipes appear out of nowhere or stuff like that. So there are no pipes. And also the height of the rope determines the speed of which they draw water. So settlers will take water faster if the water is closer to the well than if it's farther, but not a lot. So we didn't want to make it frustrating, especially when they're like taking out fires and you're waiting for like 7 minutes for them to take a bucket of water out from underneath. So no, it's going to be pretty fast. There is a slight difference. And also, like, taking out water is influenced by the motor function of the settler. So if the settler has the motor function attribute down because he has wounds or stuff like that, it's going to take him a bit longer to draw water. Also, like, several settlers can work on a well at the same time, so that's also cool. So that means like it's not one settler's gonna hog it and then the other settlers need to wait their turn. So yeah, let me just destroy this one. Yeah, and then let's get back to the barrels. So the barrels are fun. for me. I think they were interesting to design, interesting to work on. So they get filled. There's like a visually, you can see how they're getting filled with water. They can be filled in like 3 ways, basically. So 2 ways. One is settler brings water with his bucket. He places it there, that's it. The other way is you just leave it in the rain. While it's raining, it's going to get filled. And like the third, like secret way, not that secret, if you put the barrel near a roof, like an edge of a roof, the rain from the roof is going to make the barrel fill up faster. So it's not like physics or anything in the game. It's just like simple, like the barrel checks if it's under edge of the roof. And if it's under edge of the roof, is that roof getting rain? Or is that roof like, is that roof outside? Because you can build roofs inside. And if everything is true, everything is like that, the barrel is going to fill up faster. And that's fun, I guess. I mean, that's fun for me. I like it. Also, other hidden like thing for this is the barrels are basically systems for extinguishing fire. So like an automated system. The idea is that we make the barrels. So for you to make barrels, they need to use beeswax. So they're like held together with wax and rope, and then as soon as flame starts to damage them, they will auto-destruct. I don't know, like let the water spill out and take out the fire. So this gives us a nice like segue into fire arrows. So we have our archer here, and he's next to this nice brazier, and he has fire arrows on. He has this nice icon over his head. So Gregor has this nice icon. That means he has a fire arrow ready. And we can ask him to like attack this large barrel. He's gonna set the barrel on fire. The barrel lets go of all the water, and the water spills out. The wetness and the water takes out the flames, and that's cool. So you can do interesting things with this. Also, like barrel well combination is also a good way of moving water around. So if you have like a small lake on your map and you want to make a new lake on your map, you can use your barrels to do that. So you can say like, okay, I want this barrel opened. Oh, I need steward, sorry. He needs a steward job. So we can say like prioritize emptying container. The settler will come here and open the barrel, and the barrel will spill out and spawn water. So you can do that inside a small like dugout hole and make the water just be kept there, because if a well draws water from water Voxel, it's going to take a bit of that water out, and eventually you can empty the whole Voxel of water. That's a thing you can do. So I think that's pretty neat. I think that's pretty cool thing that you can do with them. Also, like we already touched a bit on modding. So barrels are the same as shelves. We call them universal storages in the JSON files. So you can change water to any resources. I saw somebody on Discord or Reddit, I'm not sure. He made the barrels store ballista bolts, and when it rains, the ballista bolts would just like start filling in. That's cool, I guess. I mean, a cool way to use that system. Okay, also It's like we never said that anywhere, but in the winter, if it's minus Celsius degrees, I don't know how much that is in Fahrenheit. Sorry. If it's minus 1 or under -1 for a long time, the barrels will freeze over. And when they're frozen over, the settlers can't take water from it. But you can build like heat sources next to it and it will never turn into ice. The cool thing is when it's frozen over, you can destroy the large water barrel and it will drop a bunch of ice cubes. A bunch of those huge ice blocks that we have. So that's like a way of building ice blocks, but I don't know, cheating, I guess. The same thing is with smaller barrels, of course, but just like smaller in amount, and that's about it for that. I also wanted to note that settlers can take out fire even without water, so if they don't have a water source, but it's going to be a bit slower. They start stomping the flame, and it looks nice. Seems like they're doing some kind of dance. They're stomping the flame and the flame goes out. That's cool. As for like warfare, let's bring back Gregor. So we added cool stuff to our game now with fire warfare. We initially added fire and then we were like, I don't know. I guess people are going to want to have flaming arrows and they're going to want to have like, you know, to do stuff with the flaming arrows. So we added these oil blobs. So you can produce flammable oil and then just like place it here and then you can, you know, set it on fire and it's going to be cool. So like let's see like what Gregor can do. You can fire it there. The fire is going to go one by one and start doing cool stuff. Yeah, this didn't catch on fire because there's nothing to catch on fire between it. And yeah, nice smoke effect, nice light effect. This guy's coming here, he's gonna take out the fire. He shouldn't do that, but okay. Not a problem. Yeah, it's raining now, so the rain's gonna extinguish the fire also. Oh yeah, she's extinguishing fire with her legs. Cool. As you can see, they don't want to extinguish fire that's on the oil blobs. They just want the fire that's spreading around. So yeah, the oil is like, it's intentional if you want that to burn. But I guess during like a siege or something, you're gonna have all your settlers, or at least a bunch of them, are gonna be drafted and they're not gonna come and like take out the fire and stuff like that. So the flammable oil is made with a new building type that's called oil press. So it can produce a bunch of cool stuff. So it can produce the flammable oil. It uses coal mixed with seeds or tallow. So that's like the oil source that's written here. And it's later used to make Greek fire. So Greek fire is made with flammable oil and with quicklime and saltpeter. So that's like the recipe for Greek fire that we made up. It kind of makes sense. I don't know. It makes sense for the game world, at least, even if it's not realistic. And then with the flammable oil and the Greek fire, you can make these nice flammable ammunition for your Trebuchet and Onagers. We'll come to that. So, yeah, the difference between Greek fire and regular fire is that Greek fire can be... Oh, I don't have any Greek fire. So I'm just gonna spawn some Greek fire. Greek fire splash. So yeah, we can put that here. And and it has a different type of like shine to it. It has a greener shine, and it can be ignited even during rain. So that's the thing about Greek fire, is that it burns very hot and it can be extinguished. And settlers won't even try. So they're going to try to extinguish fires that are spawned by the Greek fire. So Greek fire, when it spreads, it doesn't spread as Greek fire, it spreads as regular fire. But the Greek fire is still the source, and it's very hard to be extinguished. You just need to wait it out. It can be extinguished like this, and it's much more deadly for settlers and enemies. That's like an interesting thing that we added. And the same thing goes for like the incendiary ammunition for the siege weapons. So for like the enemies, we added at some point that enemies start setting things on fire, and we took it out temporarily because with the new changes that we have with our enemy AI in update 15, we needed to take out that feature of them setting stuff on fire, because those things, they didn't work that good, you know. So we paused it for now, but we're gonna bring it back at some point, but just make it more interesting and more not that silly, I guess. Yeah, and like, of course, people can be set on fire also. Yeah, we also added these little guys here, so these traps. So these traps would ignite. You need to ignite them with your arrow, and basically they're jugs filled with oil that are under tension by like ropes and sticks, and when they're activated, they just splash a bunch of oil all over the place and start burning stuff. So they're a sort of bomb. I think I'm gonna wait for the rain to end in order to get this one. I can skip ahead. It's not rainy. Okay, it's not rainy now. Cool. Let's see if Gregor can burn this one. Yeah, because it's too wet, the flames can't start burning. So yeah, that's why it's not happening. But you get the gist of it. You get how it can be used interestingly against your enemies. So yeah, that's a fun thing to happen. With update 14, we added a bunch of new stuff with combat. We wanted to upgrade some of the systems we had before. So first of all, we wanted to add throwing weapons. As you know, our ranged weapons before were crossbows and bows, and crossbows and bows could not damage buildings, and also were pretty weak against shields. We wanted to add javelins, so my guy here has javelins. We wanted to add slings. I don't know if I have a slingshot person in my settlement. It seems like I don't, but I guess I do have a slingshot here. Yeah, I have a slingshot here. Sorry, a sling. I guess that's not the same thing, right? And I also have throwing axe. Yes. Let's see, Donald is going to be a throwing axe guy. Gregor is going to be... I told him to take a sling. And yeah, they're all interesting weapons. So a sling is basically a low-tech ranged weapon. You can make it very quickly in your... What's this, a fletching table? Bower's table, sorry. You can make a sling. It's cheap. It needs just 5 clothing fabric. You can make it quick. It has a shorter range, but it does have a lot of going on for it. So it doesn't lose range when it's raining. So our settlers and enemies, they lose range when the bows get wet. But for slings and for javelins and for throwing axes, that doesn't happen. And also the good thing with, they can equip shields with the throwing weapons also. So that's cool. That's a very cool thing. So you can have a ranged settler that has a shield. Shields mean a lot. We also did some work on that. So as you can see, like there's this white thing in front of the yellow circle of the drafted settler. That is his defense of his shield. So even though he's holding it down like there, that's where the shield is defending him. So if he's hit from behind, he's going to not have any shield bonus at all. We did upgrade the shield bonus pretty much, so now all shields are better at shielding. So you can see like there's this icon here that means he's protected by his shield, but he's not protected from the back, so only from the front. That's where this is showing. So different shields have different angle of protection. For instance, a buckler has a very small angle of protection, but it also has a small chance of protecting you from an arrow. The other thing we did is we changed how protection works. Now we have melee protection and ranged protection as separate things. A buckler has a pretty high melee protection. I think it even says it here somewhere. Yes, as you can see, there's melee cover amount and range cover amount. So this kite shield has 30% melee cover amount, 75% range cover amount. That's cool. It's a good thing against arrows. But like buckler maybe has 80% melee cover amount and a smaller percent, I don't know, maybe 40% ranged cover amount. Also, weapons can have cover amount as well. I don't know if it says here in there, but like equipping something like a two-handed sword will have a melee cover amount because it's good for defending from other melee, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, other melee attacks, but it has no ranged cover amount because that doesn't make sense. But like if you want to make, I don't know, Aragorn mod where they can defend from arrows and throwing axes with their sword, you can add ranged cover amount to it. So that's cool. We can do that as well. Also, other changes that we made because of the throwing weapons is we wanted them to be able to throw their axe, but when they're in melee combat, we wanted them to use the axe as well and not go fist fighting like we had with bows and crossbows for a long time. We added alternative attacks to all weapons. So now, even with the bow, your settler will be a bit better protected. So when he has a bow equipped and enemy attacks him face to face, he will use the bow as like a stick, as like to bonk the enemy, and it does do a nice amount of damage, and it does have a lot of melee protection. So like a longbow or something like that, you can protect them from melee attacks. Let's get a guy here. Let's get Raymond here. Let's make them fight. But we also added one more thing. Fun, right? We added it that items lose HP when used. Because some people are going to hate it, but it's not a lot. Like a bow will lose 1 HP of its strength with every arrow that gets launched. That is to motivate players to create more bows, to have a production line, not just make, oh, we made fantastic bow, and then we just continue using that and never make another bow or stuff like that. And also now when the archer goes into melee combat, so yeah, he's hitting him like with a stick. This guy's gonna hit him with like an axe. See, he's using the animation as he would an axe animation, and it's pretty strong. Let's see, like the short bow, he's losing a bit of HP. Maybe he blocked one of the hits with it. So blocking axe hit with bow is not that smart. It's going to lose a lot of HP, but it is something useful against enemies as well. So like using these weapons that have high amount of armor damage. So like the bow has small amount of shield damage. The throwing axe has no info at all. Sorry about that, that's on me. I'm going to need to add that. So axes and stuff, they have a strong damage against shields and against armor. So that means that hitting somebody with this throwing axe, even from afar as a ranged weapon... Damn, he got shot in the back. Yeah, he threw the axe at him. See, it's nice and twirly. He got hit. He got hit by an arrow. So yeah, these weapons are great for destroying shields. Axes and javelins and slings, they do a nice amount of shield damage to shields being hit. That's also a good way to utilize them. And also be careful when there's enemies attacking you with slings, with axes and stuff like that. They can help take down doors with their slings and their throwing axes and stuff like that, because it does do a nice amount of damage to your buildings. Still much faster to destroy a building with a ram or a giant two-handed mace or a two-handed axe, but these ranged weapons also help. So that's also a thing. And yeah, I think those are all the changes we did to weapons. Yeah, we also added some small tweaks here and there. So now the crossbows, they get affected by rain, of course, but they don't get affected by armor anymore. Now, like heavy armor will affect the speed of which the settler or enemy can shoot their bows, but it doesn't affect how quickly they shoot crossbows, how quickly they reload. So crossbow is good for that, but also crossbow reload speed is not influenced by marksman skill. So level 1 marksman and level 50 marksman will reload the same speed, but the level 1 and level 50 marksman settler with bow is going to be a huge difference. So that's something to, factor in and use at your will. I don't know if it seems fun. And also, important thing that we added these stances. So now a settler can have a default stance and a hold ground stance. Default stance basically means that if he's a melee settler, let's see. So if it's a melee settler, the default stance means that when an enemy enters their perception, they're going to engage. If there's a door between them or a wall, they will not go outside to fight the enemy, so they're going to stay inside. Basically going to be like before. But hold ground is different. Hold ground, they will not engage enemies until they are engaged or the enemy is passing next to them. So this is a good way of making a human shield in a tight corridor, like placing these settlers with large tower shields and just letting them engage with the enemy while other settlers are bombarding them with arrows and projectiles. Yeah, and also I forgot to mention for the shields. So shields protect this frontal part, but they do not protect while mid-swing. So when the settler is swinging his weapon, as you can see, the icon changed. This means that she is not protected by the shield at this moment. That means that she can get hit by an arrow from the front, the same as getting hit by an arrow from the back. It also makes the melee cover also useless. Yeah, a lot of small changes we added here, all important for our other things that we started doing later on. I think I went through all of update 14 changes. I didn't send anybody on fire, but we can set anybody on fire, so that's cool. So they will go into some kind of animation, run around. They will spread fire with them. That is something that you should keep in mind. Like, you can start burning your goats. They will start running around, burning, like spreading fire around. So that's something that you can do. I don't know if it's useful or not, or just if you want to be a sadist, that's cool. I guess we put it in the game so you can do it if you want to. And also, animal dung is something that we added. This is a new type of resource. So I have no dung here. I don't know where my... I have no idea where my waste stockpile is. I forgot where I placed it. So dung is a resource that can be... Oh, here it is. So yeah, this is dung. Nice. Dung is a resource that needs to be used for making saltpeter. It's basically a waste. It's like ash, but we added these saltpeter works where you can produce saltpeter. And to produce saltpeter, you need dung, you need ash, and you need water, and you need time. That's it. I know urine was used in the Middle Ages for that, but we use dung here because we're different. I don't know. It was a nice use of that. So every larger animal will spawn dung from time to time. But the more animals you have, the more dung you'll have around your settlement. It's not going to make a lot of problems. It is ugly, so it will affect the aesthetic of your place. People will react to it, and some perks of settlers will even react to it very negatively when they're next to dung or just passing next to dung. They're going to get mood modifiers because they hate the stench. I think it's like the perks that are called precious and something like dainty and stuff like that. So they're not going to like being next to dung. Yeah, dainty. Oh, maybe dainty's going to react to it. Let's see. Let's get him next to dung. Oh yeah, the scent of dung. Yeah, see, -4. They're not close to dung anymore, they can't smell it, cool. So yeah, they're reacting to the world in a different way. Training buildings. Let's talk about training buildings. So this is something that we wanted to add for a long time. A lot of players have been asking for it. I know that makes sense. So we added training buildings, and training buildings are basically production buildings. So you can place a production of experience, and the settler will come here, use a practice dummy or a target, and by the end of using it, they'll get a nice amount of experience. What we want to do later on is we want to make that a bit more controllable. So at the moment, the settler can train at both. He can't train only at one. If you want to train archer, you need to stop all the production of melee training. If you want to train somebody melee, you need to stop all the production of archery training and stuff like that. So it's a hassle. So we're going to add some quality of life stuff later on. That's coming up at some point. Not like in the next update, but at some point it will. And I already saw cool mods where people are adding just like training anything, like training cooking, training speechcraft in these buildings. That's awesome. That's cool. I mean, that's That's a cool use of our production system that can be like utilized for training any skill. That's cool. Okay, what's next? Oh, new camera. So remember the coyote time camera? So that's on me. That's 100% on me. That's something that I thought up, and I thought it was a very cool idea. I thought it was like the best idea ever. Turns out it wasn't. Turned out it's not a good idea at all. But in my head, in theory, it was cool, and I tried to make it work. We tried all these changes, all these tweaks just to make it work. And a lot of players were upset about it because it's not good. It wasn't good. And I see that now, and I'm sad because we wasted time on that. But at the same time, it was a learning experience. A lot of people said, like, make the camera free, make the camera lockable, make the camera. So all those things are good. But we always want to think about, when designing stuff, is like, we want a solution that anybody can start using and it's going to work in almost every situation. So there's not like, oh, now I need to change the mode of the camera. Oh, now I need to do this. Now I need to do that. So that, like, no, we want to stick with one, and you can play the whole game for 100 hours with one system and not need to know about anything else, you know. So it's like accessible for people that maybe don't want to treat their camera in a city builder like Blender or something like that. We did end up adding layer locking, so you can lock your layer now, and that's cool. But at the same time, that's like a secondary thing. So layer locking is like, oh, you want to do a specific thing that you can with the regular camera. But we changed the regular camera. So the biggest problem before was you want to pan your camera over this 2 voxel hill. The camera would just jump, and that would irritate people. And I get it. I know why it was irritating. So I thought that the coyote time camera would fix it, because then you have, like, when you do this, the coyote time won't kick in and the camera won't jump. So that was cool, but it wasn't. What we ended up adding was, so for instance, like this dot here has a raycast. So it's a raycast. It's like a line from the dot to the ground. And if it hits the ground and the ground is a different height than the dot is, it would say like, oh, I'm going to go down. I'm going to go to the next layer where the dot is. Coyote time was like, I'm going to go to the next layer, but I'm going to wait a few seconds. But now what we added is multiple raycasts. So now you don't have like one, you have 13 around in a circle. Not in a circle, but like in some kind of shape. And what that means is like you need all 13 to be on a different layer in order for the camera to move. So that gives us this. You can go through this small hill here and the camera won't jump up. Also, we made it pretty slow for the camera to move. So even though you go to the other layer, it's going to move slowly, like not jump around. So you also have time to do this. So it has a little dip, but it's not a huge dip. That took some trial and error before it was usable. And I'm pretty satisfied with it, because now with this camera, you don't have the jumping around to annoy you. But at the same time, it's good enough that you can play the whole game with it and not be annoyed and not lose any visibility with it or stuff like that. But at the end, you can, with caps lock, use shift with your wheel, you can change the layers of the camera. So it's locked to a certain layer and it never jumps around. It's even good to just like lock it to this layer, to the one that you call the default, whichever that might be. It is good because then it's not going to jump through your buildings and stuff like that. So that's also cool. Whatever works for you. Update 15. Update 15 has a bunch of warfare things that we added. biggest thing we added now is... Oh, cool. Redmond is here. He can help me out. We added siege weapons. So the player can construct a siege weapon in his settlement. And the enemies will no longer appear with those wheeled trebuchets that were annoying. They will appear with these trebuchets that are a little bit less annoying. What's the biggest difference? So when enemies appear, they're gonna build those trebuchets on your map. And you have time to react. You can take your settlers outside, kill them, stuff like that. They won't appear with 7 trebuchets or stuff like that. They'll appear with different siege weapons, so not only trebuchets. But this is a good thing where we no longer need the trebuchet as a crutch. So the trebuchet before, a little history about the trebuchet before. Trebuchet before was used as a punishment to the player. Because our enemies were not smart, you could turtle yourself, so we call it turtling, where you make a castle that has no doors, or it has a giant ditch around it, or is on a giant platform, or something like that. So that is, you're telling the enemy that they can't enter. So we tried to use visitors and stuff like that for battling that, so visitors can't enter your settlement and stuff like that, but at the end that didn't work a lot. People were still turtling a lot. And I guess that's cool. But then we were like, okay, if you're turtling, the enemies will appear with trebuchets. And that was just annoying. That was not cool. Now we changed the enemy AI so they know how to deal with those situations, and we added them building siege weapons. And before, the trebuchet was infinite range. So when an enemy appears with a trebuchet in one corner, he can snipe, he can artillery you in the other corner. Now it has a range. They will start building their trebuchet within range, but a bit closer to you, so you have time to react to it. So let's take a look at our trebuchet right now. Let's see this person. Let's say operate. This person's gonna operate this trebuchet. It took one incendiary trebuchet projectile, that's cool. And it's gonna start winding it up. Okay, it does take a minute to wind up because it's strong weapon and we don't want it to be quick firing around. Okay, so let's just take a look at its range. So this first circle is the minimum range. Trebuchet can't fire inside this smaller circle. And then it has its maximum range that is here. So it has a nice range. It's not good. It also has range differences by height. So the higher it is, the larger range it has. But not a lot. So trebuchets is on the one layer above, it's 5% more. So it's not that much. It's cranked. The settler is waiting here. We can say okay, let's attack this part here. I'm gonna use slow motion. So we take a look at it. Yeah, Greek fire everywhere. So yeah, that's cool. You can shoot Greek fire. And the settler is gonna continue adding ammunition to it. So it added also Greek fire projectile again. I guess that was the highest priority there. So we have 3 types of projectiles. We have regular stone one, oil one, and Greek fire oil one. As you can see, this is what the oily ones do. They spawn patch of fire, and that's cool. Don't worry, the enemies don't use the fire ones yet. Maybe we add it to them at some point, so they do use it. But they don't. They just use regular stone balls to launch them. You have 2 modes you can attack. You say what you want them to attack. If you try here, it's going to say the target is too close, blah, blah, blah. You can have continuous attack. So you can order them and they will bombard this space all day long, you know. Cool thing is you can add buckets of water. So this is like a fun thing we added. We added that any resource can be a projectile. Not yet, but like it's doable from dev standpoint. It just takes a bit of time. And what I'm planning on doing is adding every resource to projectile list. Basically, you can bombard your settlers with human meat if you want to, or bombard them with corpses, you know, just like Stronghold, throw a cow at them. The thing is that every projectile can have its own effect, and I guess we're just gonna play around with what the effect is. Like, are they gonna get a mood modifier? Are they gonna get whatever? So the cool thing with water is you can make them wet. Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Making your enemies wet will make them less flammable. If you want to do that, or if you want to extinguish a fire that's far away. So let's try that. Let's get our bucket of water here to see what's up. Place the bucket of water, and then we're gonna shoot that. We're just gonna cancel this attack continuously and just have one attack. Idea is that you throw water at your enemies, they get wet. If their archers are wet, they're gonna have very weak precision because their arrows are wet. So you can do that if you want to. Or we can make, if you throw quicklime at them and throw water at them, they'll get some kind of burns, get wounds, get itchy, or it gets in their eyes, they lose, you know, chemical warfare. Why not? We're going medieval, it's a game, we can do whatever we want. Yeah, let's see how water does. It's not gonna do a lot, it's just gonna make this place wet. Yeah, it just made this place wet. Didn't even notice it, it was so fast. It's just gonna make everything wet, nothing else. But yeah, it's a fun thing. So that's something that we're gonna add at some point. Let's see the other ones. Let's see this one. Let's operate Ballista. So a Ballista is, as you can imagine, it's a huge crossbow. What's different with it and the other siege weapons is it's fast, it's faster, it's not very fast, but it's faster. It has decent range, but it has a much larger bonus when it's on a tower. As you can see, all these different circles represent its minimum range. So the higher it goes, its minimum range is larger, but its range is also large. And because it's so high above, its range becomes almost as big as the Trebuchet range. And that's great, because then you can use this against the enemy trebuchets. Also, it's like cheaper than a trebuchet, but it doesn't pack that big of a punch. But it's maybe better to shoot the enemy trebuchet operator than to shoot the trebuchet itself. Because when you defeat your enemies, you will get their siege equipment. It's going to become yours. It's going to become the siege equipment of your settlement. So that's awesome. That's cool stuff. Yeah, let's try to shoot that a couple times. Yeah, it's a huge arrow. It's a huge bolt. Yeah, the ballista bolt has a chance to not be destroyed when it hits the ground, so that's cool. It's forbidden when it spawns like that, so your settlers won't start running there to take the second ballista bolt, destroy the first ballista bolt, and spawn the new one. But yeah, we can do those things, so they're cool. Let's see our Onager. So Onager is... it's not that historically correct. We made this, and we made it like a... let's call it a shotgun. It doesn't hurl one big ball like the trebuchet does, but it hurls like many small stones in an area. So that's like a nice anti-infantry raining down on like enemies that are preparing. So that's also cool. It does have a bit of a shorter range than Ballista, but it does also scales its range with the height of it. And it also has a minimum range that's larger than the Ballista, so when enemies come closer, it doesn't work. That's a bummer. And also remember, enemies will use the same weapons. Let's bombard our settlement here. Let's throw it there. Yeah, oh, it's using the incendiary. Yeah. So there's a lot of balls that are flaming. I'm gonna go slow motion. Slow motion, even slower. Yeah. Flying there. They spawn small fires when they fall. Yeah. They're a cool thing. Now it's using the regular projectiles, so that's cool. They're not in range. Let's throw it at our Trebuchet. When going super slow motion, the projectiles have this zipping around. As you can see, it starts to spread. So the spread of the attack is larger with every nice. So anything that it hits, it moves around a bit. Oh, it destroyed the floor. Destroyed the floor and destroyed my Trebuchet also. So that wasn't that fun. But worth it. I guess worth it. Yeah, and it also hurt my settler a bit. Yeah, poor settler. Okay, cool. So I think that's about it for the siege weapons. I would like to talk about enemy AI a bit, but I'm going to switch to a different map where I have stuff set up so we can look at those things. I want to talk about the new enemy AI that we've been mentioning. So before, as I already mentioned, like you're not going to make something like this. This is only for testing purposes. But you make something like this and the enemy doesn't know what to do. So we would punish you by spawning them with a bunch of trebuchets. So now we made it a bit different. Now they're smarter. Now they have a different pathfinding that pathfinds through everything. It takes into account everything. So now they were like, oh, this is soil. So I'm going to give the order for them to dig here, and then it's going to be a wall. And then they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to break down that wall, and then I'm going to dig soil again. Or if it calculates that it's cheaper to build ladders, they're going to build ladders down and enter your stronghold with the goal of busting up your furniture or killing your settlers. So in this example here, they should dig. So if we go like 2% speed, we start their attack, we see that they have a plan, they know what they're doing, and they start digging. And when they stop digging, they will attack that wall. So they're like, oh cool, there's a wall here. And they will choose the enemy that has the best tool for the job. So no longer will there be like an enemy with a dagger trying to take down a wall. Now they'll take down the wall with blunt weapons that are much stronger. So what does this mean? So there are some players that are concerned that enemies will now dig under their settlement and go inside somehow. So that's not going to be the case. So they will always rather go for gate. and not try to dig like 500 voxels in order to tunnel into your system. We can add that, but we don't want to add that. We don't think that's fun. We just want you to be on your toes and try to cover as much defense as you can and not be like, oh cool, I have this kill box that I made, now I'm set forever. So that's something that we didn't want to happen. We wanted the enemies to be more interesting of a problem to solve. That being said, it's not perfect now. We're still working on it a bit. There's still going to be some changes that we want to add. We want to tweak it a bit. Right now, there are situations where they start building ladders that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're working on it, of course. We also want to make it a bit different so that it's not always the same way of them thinking. So sometimes they will revert to the similar to the old system. They will try to attack your gates head on. If they are defeated, they will try to build ladders next time or try to dig a certain amount of voxels. So not like a huge tunnel, just like some tunnel through a small hill or something like that. Or try to take down a wall that they calculate that's the weakest, to give you interesting things to defend from. It is maybe frustrating for somebody that just wants to have like a chill gameplay experience. They made a nice kill box, they made a nice gate, it's a nice defense, and they defend from all the raids. So that is something that we want to work on also. What we're working on now is we want to redo the game modes that we have now to make them a bit more understandable, like what's going to happen, what's the amount of difficulty that you can expect, and also make it a bit more customizable, like you can now with the difficulty and the options menu, but like go even further, like where you can ramp up the amount of attacks and ramp down the amount of attacks. As you can do already now, you can ramp up the amount of enemies, ramp down the amount of enemies, make the enemies have more hit points and whatnot. So we just want to give a bit more levers for the player to pull and tweak them a bit so we have the best experience for players. Also, something that we added, this is the battle balance. We call it scales, but it's called balance here. We had a weird problem before where we had all these like if this happens, and that if tree would be very strange, where you would like kill 5 enemies and the enemy would knock one of your settlers unconscious, and that would be automatic defeat for you, and that didn't make a lot of sense. Now we added this, so this is like a visual way of tracking what's happening, and it tells you like who has more points, whatever. So like enemies killed plus 65 points, settlers wounded in action, so it's not the same as killing a settler and wounding a settler is different amount of points. Also, they destroy buildings. Buildings now count as victory for the enemy. So that means that if you take all your settlers and go to the cellar and lock down, the enemy is going to enter your Great Hall or your other rooms, and they're going to start breaking down furniture. And when they break down all the furniture, they might win. So yeah, that's also a thing. They can now win without spilling blood. So I guess it's cool. I mean, that's cool. Like, you don't want to engage in battle, but it's gonna punish you a bit. And also, it's gone, but we have the gray part. The gray part is a tie. What does that do? That basically means that you didn't win or you didn't get defeated. It's nothing. Nobody won. Nobody got anything, and they'll just leave. So that can happen. That's there if, I don't know, you kill 90% of their people and they defeat 90% of your settlers. So it's not a victory, it's not a defeat, but it's a tie and they just leave, and that's all. We plan on expanding that as to like make those scales matter more. So the more you win, the better modifiers your settlers have. So they kind of get excited because they're winning, and the enemies get demotivated as they're losing. So they have, I don't know, some of them start running away at once without waiting for the end of the battle and stuff like that. Also, the scales will work also vice versa. So if you start losing your settlers, they automatically dedraft, go into flee mode, or they get negative mood modifiers and stuff like that. And also, like, if the red bar goes totally to the left and the battle is done, then we plan to add, like, the enemies steal some resources from you. But not a lot, of course. We're gonna not make that so annoying, but just to add some more weight to losing. Right now, you lose, nothing happens. Only your settlers are wounded and stuff like that. That's also something we did. We tempered a bit with the threshold of your settlers going unconscious. So now there's a larger chance of your settler going unconscious than dying. So that's good, because now you're not going to have so many dead settlers early on in the game. Of course, they're going to be wounded. Their wounds need to be tended and whatnot, but you're not punishing that much. And yeah, I think that's it. I did want to talk about some other things. So I wanted to talk about drawbridges. I know a lot of people are like, where are drawbridges? Why weren't they with gates and whatnot? And we said, yeah, our enemies are stupid and we want drawbridges. And then when the enemies are smarter, we'll add drawbridges. So we didn't add drawbridges yet. They're still planned. It's not going to be next update, but at one point it's going to be there. We like drawbridges. They sound fun. We want them in the game. And now, if you have a huge ditch and you close your drawbridge, the enemies won't have anything to attack, but they can build ladders and they can enter your settlement easy. Not easy, like they're enter your settlement in a different way. So that's something that we couldn't do before. Now we can, and that's why we waited for a while until we work on that. So what is something that we're working on next is we're mostly concentrated on optimization. So the next larger patch will be mostly about optimization. As you know, we are not the most optimized game, especially when we have a lot of settlers, a lot of agents. Good thing is it's not GPU bound. There are players that report like, oh, I have a 4080 or something like that, and the game runs bad. And luckily, it's more CPU bound. That doesn't mean that a beefier CPU will make the game run better. It's just that been adding so many systems throughout the years, so many stuff to our mixture of systems, and some systems in combinations with others make the CPU go bad. They don't work together well. Some of our devs have been working on optimizing on a different branch. We've concentrated on two things, so making the FPS better in gameplay, especially mid-gameplay and later gameplay when you have 15 people and 50 animals and whatnot. And also to make load times faster, because our load time is not that good, especially when you have a huge map. Some players have been sending us reports through the reporter, and when we would load their saves, they would take up to 20 minutes to load. But those are massive, they use modded maps, they make Minas Tirith or something like that. It takes a long time to load. We would like to get that down from 20 minutes to, I don't know, something smaller. But again, those are the outliers. The game's not intended to be played that way, and we're okay with that loading a bit slower, but not that slow. So that's something that we're going to do. And also, we're working on just more stuff. There are something that I wanted to comment on. We saw on Discord and on Reddit, some people are concerned that we're going too much into combat and we're turning the game into this combat simulator and not so much life castle builder simulator. It was always the plan to have a balance between it, to be a bit of Stronghold, a bit of Sims, a bit of voxel building and stuff like that. And the last few updates are kind of combat heavy with fire and everything, but we're still not done. We still have a lot of things that we want to add, and more builder things are coming up. Maybe not as large of a feature set, but the stuff here and there, we still want to have that experience for the player and have that experience be cool. We're not ditching the builder gamer and going for the combat gamer. We want to give interesting experiences wherever we can. So, stay tuned, I guess. Also, something that we wanted to shout out is We see nice mods popping up, and I've been looking personally at some of them, and they're super fun. It's even more fun for me because I get to see like how people are using our systems to make something interesting, and sometimes they make something like I wouldn't ever think of it, not as an idea, but like the way they do it, and that's super exciting. So I would like to make a separate video where I play through a bunch of mods and comment on them. So that's something that I would like to shout out, like, guys and gals, if you want to make cool mods, put them on the workshop. Now that we have all these interesting tools to work with, put out some mods. I'm gonna be playing maybe in a month or so. More info will be on our social networks and on Discord. We'll be playing mods and we'll be commenting on them. So if you want your mod to be featured, make the mod shout out on Discord. You know, like, hey, I have this cool mod, can you play it? We'll try to play it. And yeah, I guess that's it. Bit of a boring video, I guess, but I did talk a lot. Yeah, cool then, guys. Bye.